Welcome to escape rooms. I love escape rooms. I think they're probably one of the things I tend to spend more time on than I probably should, just because I enjoy doing them so much. So what I have on my screen right now is it's kind of my Google Sites escape room cheat sheet. When I started making escape rooms, I'm the type of person who writes notes to herself. And so when I was reading about like different people making escape rooms or people doing stuff, I started taking notes on this Google Doc. And then I had a couple people who were like, hey, you should share that with me. And then I was like, okay. And then now it's kind of morphed into this Google Doc that has sort of an outline of things I do to create an escape room. I mean, obviously it's kind of up to you, but they're kind of things I've made notes to myself. I honestly use this like when I do build them. So what I did is I put in the chat right now a Google Doc, and it will force a copy of this sort of, it's not really a cheat sheet. It's more so like helping me remember how to build an escape room. So I'm going to be coming back and forth to this as we're building the escape room. I do have a ton of tabs open because I do realize with the meat, things take forever to load. And so if I preload them ahead of time, it makes things a little bit easier. So first thing we want to talk about with escape rooms is there's so many different ways that you can make an escape room. One of the ways is through Google Sites. And so if you've never used Google Sites before, so I'm going to switch my screen here really quick to this tab. This is an escape room about animal fun. And so it has a picture there in the background of an escape room. And then they have added text that has some of the clues in it. And then they've added images inside the Google site. I was going to say Paradox. See, I'm used to being from earlier, Google Site. They've added some images and had links to these images in order to fill out this final escape room walk. And so we're going to do something kind of similar today. We're going to up it up one little step higher, but this is one of those like escape rooms that is built mostly with Google Sites. It does have a Google form on it. Now, another way that you can build an escape room is straight up with Google Forms. And so if you just want to use Google Forms, I'm going to give you the link to this digital escape room, but if you go to the bottom of that doc, and this is me, I'm just sharing everything I have, so I'm not like trying to force a bunch of escape rooms on you, but I like to collect things. So I have a wakelet of escape rooms, but I also have ones on my Google Doc that I'm, giving you my sacred Google Doc. No, but it has all of these escape rooms on it, because I like to pull them and be like, oh, that was a good idea. That was a good idea. But Sydney, and I'm not even going to attempt to say her last name, this Sydney lady at PT Library, she has created so many awesome escape rooms with books, like based on books. And so she has a Harry Potter one. She has a whole bunch of ones. So if I go on next to this escape room, it reminds me more of those books that we read. I think it was in the 80s. I have no idea. But the ones that were choose your own adventure books, and they had like the cover on the front of it that made you not want to read the book until you realized all your friends were doing it. And then you wanted to read the book. Those books, the choose your own adventure ones. So she actually, this is if you're more of a narrative kind of person or someone who likes to tell a story. It's kind of like you're walking through Hogwarts. And then she created another section. And on that next section, it has, there's something that's locked. So it does take a lot longer to go through, and it's a lot more reading. So ours today is going to be a bit more visual. I do have a Google Forms higher level training to kind of share some stuff. But if you want to go over or meet with me on how we can set up an escape room for just forms, let me know and we can do that. But that's not going to be our main emphasis today. But I'm just trying to share with you that that was one of those escape rooms that you can use. Going back, sorry. Another thing is you want to incorporate Google Drawings. Some people have made escape rooms with Google Slides as well, or you can use a combination of a whole bunch of these Google tools together. So that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to smash them up together. The person I was most inspired to do this by is Matt Miller at Ditch That Textbook. Matt Miller's a great guy because he compiles so many things inside his website or inside a book of ways to do things. I want to say that he's a super creative guy. I think he is, but if you ever do go to his site and stuff, I am going to say he's really a curator. He curates what other people have done, and they do. That's kind of his thing. So one time he curated something for the site. I was like, like, you know, whatever. But anyways, he does pick people's stuff and he uses them. So this is an escape room that is built on a Google site in the background. It has a Google drawing on it, and in that Google drawing, it has a link. So it has him linking to the book he wants you to buy. And then it has a link to the, you know, like just any of these different images. So the first thing I would do telling students, if you're creating this for students or even other adults, is you hover over something. If it is a, I don't know if my thing's gonna get bigger or just, nope, just the background. But if you look that I have an arrow, that's my hovering. If I hover over something on a Google drawing that turns into a hand, that means that it's clickable, right? So, you know, over here, la, 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 and then it's clickable. And by the way, this is called Cursor Pro. Everyone always asks me about my cursor. So this is Cursor Pro. It costs $8. It's through the Mac store. It's totally worth it for me. I don't know if it'd be worth it to you. You left click, it changes one color. So if I left click, it's blue. If I right click, it's gonna be red, okay? So any of these, if you click on that, say I left clicked on it, it's going to open up a new tab and it's going to take you to whatever that clue is. And so in this case, I guess it's going to be a video and you have to figure out the video and all that jazz. And from that clue, it's going to have a Google form that has locks on it. So there's a 13-letter word lock, a date lock, a character lock. And if I try and put in a date on here and I try and leave it and it's not correct, it's going to say, nope, try again until I get the correct combination or whatever it is. So that's what we're going to do today is we're going to use these three tools, drawings. That was going to be cooler because I thought it was going to load better, but forms and sites. So we're going to use those three things kind of to make an escape room today. Now, the thing you're going to probably want to do, and this is where I need to go back to my cheat sheet because I have to yell at myself for this, okay, is planning is part of the process. And I'll have to say probably the planning thing is what takes me a little bit more time. When I do this planning, I kind of am a little bit more old school in doing it, but you kind of first need to have a theme or a story, right? And here's my kind of tip with this, because when I was first making escape rooms, I was trying so hard to fit my story into what the heck was happening, okay? Because I was like, I'm doing a escape room and I really want to do one on properties of matter. So I had made one on properties of matter. So I'm trying to come up with this crazy story about like, well, what can I have it be that the ice caps are melting, but then the volcano is going to erupt because, you know, that's the other property of matter. But wait, I want to be a science class. And I was trying so hard to fit the story into what my instruction was. I realized over time, you don't necessarily have to do that. The actual clues and things themselves can be the review topics or what you want them to cover or the items. You don't have to force the story to fit into that. And once I kind of let my crazy control freak, if you know anything about me, go a little bit, I could ask those students, hey, I'm coming up with an idea for our next unit. And I think one of the units, I'm trying to remember what it was. I did this for science. No, I did it for social studies, but I would do it for science and social studies a lot. I said, we're reviewing New Mexico history. What can be the story? And so the students had like this haunted house story and it was all creepy or whatever. So I used their story, but with the New Mexico content. So it doesn't have to match up that much. So that was just me overthinking things and it would make things harder, right? The other thing is map or plan how one thing leads to another. If not, you're going to have a broken path. In this case, with the Harry Potter one, you obviously needed to plan everything out. Or you can choose to have an escape room or activity or digital one where it's only going to be like you solve one clue and then you solve the next clue, but you still kind of have to plan it out to make sure you know what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Now, I use old school paper. I think this is part of my plan from the one I was making yesterday. And then I even have the codes here so I remember what they are in case I mess up. But I plan that out. If you want to use something that is not like old school writing out on paper, it's nice to use something like Jamboard or something that you can move around. So what I was going to do today is I'm going to have a story about a raccoon. And I was inspired because my daughter just got back from summer camp. So she was talking about this little raccoon and they named him something. I don't even remember what it was called. I think they called him Reggie. But so they were like trying to catch Reggie. This is my teenage daughter. Ignore her. But the story inspired me to make a summer camp themed escape room where I'm thinking, okay, this raccoon's trashed the camp. And so the camper's going to be coming in 15 minutes and I got to clean it up. So I need help from you guys. And so then that spawned the next idea for clues or what I wanted to do. So I'm like, ooh, maybe I can have a horse like escape. So I'm going to throw a horse out there. Maybe I'll have him get into all the arts and crafts stuff. So, ooh, I should have our arts and crafts room. So it's mostly just kind of brainstorming and coming up with things. And maybe you think there's a good idea, but then you're like, no, that was an awful idea. Just kind of run with it, but start planning first, because before I would start building before I planned. And that was a whole lot harder than if I had planned first. One thing I have noticed over time, less complex is if you want it to finish quickly. I would say probably 3 to 4 activities that are only one step. And what I mean by that is there's only one thing that links to the actual clue or the actual answer. If you want something that's more complex, it takes longer, maybe you have students working on the whole class or in groups together, you might want to have 5 to 8 activities and have them be a couple more steps long. So that's kind of where that whole thing starts, right? So first of all is plan, plan, plan. Now that you've planned, you might want to start thinking about creating those clues and what type of clues you're going to want to have. So we're going to be creating these clues on a Google form, and those clues are going to have to be number locks, word or letter locks, direction locks, and like color locks. There's a couple more things you can think of, but the way that we're going to work these is response validation. So I'm just saying that's kind of what you want to think of first. Okay, so you're kind of planning out all of these things and trying to figure out what your clues are going to be. And then you're ready to actually get into the tools to build with them. Okay, so that's where I'm saying like kind of plan things out first and then use those tools. So is there any questions about planning? Hopefully we know how to plan. I don't know if you need help planning. I don't know. No. But now we're going to get into actually using these tools. I'm going to close tabs as we're going so we can kind of save some stuff. Now we're going to start planning, like I said, how to do this. So the first thing I usually like to do is I like to create that image that's going to be my main story image. Okay, so that's going to be the one thing that's going to be on the Google site that everything's going to link out to. Now, the reason I like to create that image before the site and doing things is because I've realized over time, I'll get in my head, I should put 7 clues on there. And then I realize I can't fit 7 pictures on there very well. And I'm like, I'm going to scrap one. So it's better to throw that out before you start making your clue stuff or your locks and things, is to build that image kind of right away and then start building the clues that go with the image, okay? The thing I'm going to be using for these images is I'm going to be using drawings. So to get to drawings, you can either go to Google and do the waffle to get to drawings, or I like to go to drawings.google.com, and that's going to pop up a brand new untitled Google drawing. Okay, now one of the reasons I like to use Google Drawings, you can use Google Slides as well. So if you're used to making Bitmoji classrooms and doing that kind of stuff, go ahead and you can put it on Google Slides. I just like the versatility of Google Drawings a little bit more, as far as you can kind of change the size of the background a little bit. It's going to keep all those images all together a little bit more. So it's kind of my preference, but you can do very similar stuff to this in Google Slides as well. So I'm going to call this my summer camp background. Name it off first. And here is one thing I would do first. Well, actually 2 things. And I actually forgot one of the steps. I'm going to be building a whole bunch of stuff as we go along, and I forgot my main step. Before you even start, I would create a folder in your drive that you're going to keep everything in. So I created a folder, so go to New, Folder, and then make the folder for everything you're going to put everything in. And here's the trick I like to do before I start building stuff. Right click on that folder and go to Share. And the reason you're going to want to do this is because I want everything I create from this point forward to be viewable by whoever's taking this escape room. So if I make the folder first and I change the permissions on the folder down here, I'm going to go to Change. And it's defaults to restricted to Albuquerque Public Schools. So it's normally defaulting to restricted. I want to change it to anyone with the link, or if you only want your students to have access to it, anyone at APS can view it, and then I'm going to hit done. The reason I do that is now my folder has this cute little person on it. That means anything that's created inside this folder or made in this folder is going to have the same share permissions as everything that's in that folder. So you don't have to worry about changing all of these different share permissions in what you're making. So then from within that folder, if you want to make sure things go in there right away very, very quickly, when you're in the folder, you can go to New, and then whatever item you want to make, and it's going to save it in this folder. So that's kind of my other trick, is so I can make sure I'm building all of this stuff into one place. That's what I do with my Google folder. Is there any questions about the Google folder stuff? Okay. So here I am on my Google Drawings. So here's my other tip I was going to bring up. I like to go to File, Page Setup, and change this from standard to widescreen 16 by 10. And that's because on most computers, we have widescreens that are more than likely 16 by 10 as a ratio. So when you notice that I apply that, it's going to make it a bit wider, but still kind of fat. So now I have a little bit more space to work with, and it's going to go on that Google site a little bit better. So now you kind of have to think of your image, and you want to start from the background, and you're going to want to move your way up. And the one thing I love about almost all Google tools is that you can go to Insert an Image, and you can search right from the web, which is really kind of fun. If you go through the website search, they are images that are fair use and Creative Commons. I can't remember what it is. So that way they're able to be used and they're not copyrighted. So I'm just going to go ahead and look up like a summer camp cabin. And I had already kind of looked at this one. And I'm going to click on that image and I'm going to hit Insert. And now that image is going to be plopped right here into my screen, and I can move it around. It's a little bit slow building though. And I can grab these little handles here and stretch this image out to kind of fit in my space. So the reason we want to create this background first is because Google Drawings, as well as Google Slides, layers everything that you put in. So now anything else I put in is going to be the next layer, and then the next layer, and the next layer. Okay, so this is where I can go back to my plan, which I closed. Happy plan, but that's fine. I'll remember it. That the horse escaped, and I said, okay, there was an arts and crafts room, and that got all messed up. So I want to put some images in here to kind of build my scene that this raccoon trashed the camp, right? So I'm going to go to Insert, Images again, and I'm going to search from the web. Now that I have my background, though, the images that I want to put on here, I don't want them to have any like outlines or anything like that. So let's say I want to have a horse in the background that has escaped. instead of just looking up horse, there are some clue words here to look up, especially if we're doing either a Bitmoji classroom or in this case, a escape room on drawings or something. I'm going to look up transparent background or transparent PNG. And if I look that up from within here, it's more likely I'm going to get images of horses that are going to be transparent. So I'm going to select this guy. I'm going to hit insert. And when I insert that image, it's going to be where it's all transparent around it. So it kind of looks like it fits into that scene, right? And now I can click on him and I can resize this dude.
Tina, did you say that the other one was transparent community?
No, transparent PNG.
Oh, PNG. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm going to have him over here. Now, the trick with any type of sort of scenery, I don't know the best way to put it, like any type of imaging, is the smaller you make something, the more it's going to look in the distance. And the bigger you make something, the more it's going to look like it's in front of something. And you kind of want to look at that layering. Like, I don't want to stick this horse very small right here in front of this tree. Because like I said, there's layering, and I can't put it behind the tree because it's going to put it behind the entire background. So now it just looks like I have a really tiny horse, right? So I don't want my little tiny horse, even though that might be part of my story. But if I move my tiny horse, come here, tiny horse, and I move him back here on this trail, and he's back there, it gives the impression that he's kind of the regular size of a horse, right? So I'm going to just insert a couple more images. So I'm going to search the web for like a cooler in the background. So a couple other things that you can use for looking up stuff is if you want to keep everything looking animated, you can look up with the word clip art. And so if I look up like a cooler with clip art, it's going to look like it's drawn. So you're going to find things that are drawn. Usually it pulls the transparent PNG, but you can even go one step further and say cooler clip art transparent. And then it's going to pick that up for you, right? So I'm going to go back to just clip art. And now I'm going to grab this guy, and you can either click it and insert, or you can click it and hold it and drag it over to that image. I'm going to close that. And I want this image to look a little bit bigger. So I'm going to put it towards the front. So I'm going to put it like in this corner. Now, the reason I wanted to grab another image is another tool that you can use for these different images that you insert is this tool right here, which might help you out, which is the crop tool. So if I click crop, it's going to pull up these black lines around the edges here that if I hold on to that black line, and it has to be the black line or it tries to resize it for some reason. I'm going to hold on to that black line and drag it over here to this edge. And then I'm going to take this black line and drag it up here to this edge. And then I'm going to click off of the image, and it's going to crop out those parts. So now it kind of looks like we just took a picture, but it's like, you know, they're stuck there in the corner. So that's kind of another trick, is you can use the crop tool. So let's say you had something go up against this tree. You can crop it out to the edge of the tree, and it'll kind of look like that tree's in front of it. So that's another really quick tip for the images. So what I've kind of already done, because I'm me, is I've gone through and I created this picture, and over time, so this is kind of one of the things that's more time consuming because you're trying to add in all these images and stuff. I went ahead and did the same process, but I added in some fruit, like here's my little raccoon who got away. I put a camp sign, and I put some little fruit here on the ground that spilled everywhere. And I went ahead and put in a fire pit, and he got all my, supplies and stuck them over here, and he messed up our garbage can. So I put in a whole bunch of different things for the images. And Sylvia, I'm sorry, I didn't know what Can we use clip art for what?
Sorry. For PECs, like the picture exchange picture for kids with autism and special needs and stuff?
Yes. So to do that, I've just been using the web because I'm lazy. If you go to image, you can upload from your computer or your drive. So you can use all of those different pictures. So I've actually used pictures of like my kiddos and things like that. If you do want to use pictures of students, which my students used to get a kick out of, but you want it to be that transparent background, one of the tools that I used, it became more popular, is if you go to remove.bg, and it works pretty good. I found very few online that work that well, is it will take any image as long as the background is close to kind of a solid color, or it can pick up where the background is. Because like this, you can tell that like she is in focus up, and in the background, it's kind of fuzzy. Then you can upload an image and it will take the background out of it, and you can save it as a PNG, and it'll make a transparent image for you. So you can take like a picture of something in your classroom. I used to do that. I used to take a picture of my like dogs, because they like to have my dogs in the story. So that was like my Easter egg, is there'd always be my dog like in the background, like randomly there. So that is like another little fun trick that you could do for a image. But that was a great question. Thank you. So is there any questions about adding pictures into the drawings? I will say that you can layer pictures on top of each other, and trying to find something that, here, we'll do this food. So I wanted this food to look like it was way in the front, right? So if I want to move this back, it's kind of hard because you're supposed to double click and then you can change order or whatever. But the shortcut key is if you want things to come forward, you do command in the up key. And if you want to send things back, you do command in the down key. So what I mean by that is if I click on this bread and I hit command down, you're gonna see how it's gonna go behind that trash can. And now it's behind the background. And I'm like, I didn't mean to do that. I can hit command in the up arrow and then go to the front. And I believe on a PC that's control down and control up, but I'm not absolutely positive on that. So if anyone uses a PC and has used that trick before, let me know if it's control. The last thing I want to do is I want to add myself as a Bitmoji. So if you haven't played with Bitmoji before, you are going to have to get the app. You build a little tiny avatar of yourself. I think people have kind of done this by now. Please do not have students do it, because they have to be 13. If they're older, make sure they know what they're doing, because Bitmoji is now in cahoots with Snapchat, and I am not a huge fan of Snapchat for teenagers in certain aspects. But it is fun to make a little Bitmoji person. So this is supposed to be me, and you get to pick their clothes and you can kind of design them. And then you can search for all of these different sort of like images. If you are looking for a full image, type in the word pose, and it's going to pull up any Bitmojis that are going to be full body. So instead of having to weed through everything, you can, thank you, Barbara, you can use Pixton, and they can have a free one for students to make their own little avatars. So these are full body people, boop, that you can add into a image. Now what's nice about this is I have the Bitmoji extension. So once you create it on your app, you've created it, you just sign in through an extension right here, and it'll pull it up, and then you can have all these Bitmojis as you're doing stuff. So I'm going to copy this image of me looking rather shocked, and then I'm going to go back to my image, and I'm going to paste that guy in there. Okay, I forgot I have to do it that way. I was trying to show you that I was pasting, but there I am. Okay, so the thing with Bitmojis is they tend to put in here really big and large, right? So the problem with that is if I click on this space around my Bitmoji, or if you are inserting any sort of clip art images, that space is going to link to things. So what I like to do is I like to, when I do insert images, I like to go through the crop tool and kind of crop them down as close as possible to that actual image as I can, So that way it's not interfering with any links that I'm going to put in. So we're going to talk about inserting links here in a second. And so in the end, that's pretty much how easy it is to create this sort of image where I'm freaking out that my cute little raccoon here has completely destroyed the camp and the kiddos are coming in 15 minutes. So do we have any questions about that as far as just kind of building an image really quick?
No, but I love it.
Yay, thank you. No. And I'm trying to see, I think I wrote down the wrong time this session ends. Okay. I had 1:30, so I was like, whoo. So now that I have this lovely little guy set up, I want to start building my clues. Now, you can get clues from all over the place. I'm going to go back to our cheat sheet. And I've decided for this one I wanted 4 clues, or I wanted 4 locks. And so we're going to talk about Google Forms in a minute. But before I do that, I'm actually going to scroll down somewhere. Here it goes. Here are some ideas for creating different clues. So here's different tools I've used over time. I keep looking up stuff. I like to create fake examples of things. So you can create fake receipts. You can create fake Twitter feeds and like put in your own information with clues inside them. I've done fake fortune cookies. I've done Google Maps where they lead to different places. I've done art images, which we're going to kind of talk about. I'm going to kind of stick to the same thing today, but I've done logic puzzles. I've done Morse code. I've done ciphers and codes, and I've used those. I think I'm going to open this one because I didn't have it open before. Yeah. So you kind of can look at this. I was hoping that this would give you some ideas on what to do. I used to use music notes a lot, but now the guy who made that tool ended up selling it to Deck Toys. So if you've ever played with Deck Toys, they're still pretty cool, but you have to pay for it to get to that level. But I'm sad, but there's still some music toys there. There's also some great tools on flippity.net. If you've never seen flippity.net, it works in conjunction with Google Sheets, and it has where you can add the information into a Google Sheet and then publish it, and it has really easy steps on how to do it. But here's all of the different stuff that you can, eventually it's going to load, that you can use flippity.net for. You can make a spinning wheel, you can make a trivia game, but what I like to use it for escape rooms is I like to use it with this like matching game, because once they're done matching up these tools, you can give them the code at the end where it's supposed to say congratulations. You can change that to the code. You can have them do the same thing kind of with a virtual board game. So there are a whole bunch of fun things on flippity.net that you can use just in general. But I decided to go ahead, and so I'm just sharing this so you know I don't know what clue to make, or I don't even have any ideas. I tried to throw a whole bunch of different things that you can try or check out if you wanted to. So I'm going to make 4 clues. I'm going to make a color lock. I made a number lock, a word lock, and a direction lock. And here's what I did for my color lock is using Google Drawings again. I just looked up some images that were like arts and craftsy tools, and I wanted to focus on colors. And like the glue was like 4 different colors when I inserted it in here. So if you do ever want to change that, you can go to Format Options, really easy. And there's an option to recolor stuff. So if you do want to have a color lock and you want to change it to like maybe like in this case, I made it grayscale, or I wanted it to be pink or yellow or green or something, you can use Google to sort of force what you're trying to make it do. So I have white, red, green, blue. So essentially it's going to be 1 is white, 2 is green, 3 is red. So it's based on the number of items. That's what order the colors go in. So pretty easy clue. The order goes by what number of items there are. I also created a number lock. In Google Drawings, you can add links. And so we're going to link the text first, and then we're going to show how we can link other things. So here is that awesome, oh, there you go. give it a sec, hopefully. There it goes. It used to be called Mystery Piano. I had a couple of them that were still made. And so I'm going to link to that web page within the Google Drawings. So hopefully it'll come up here in a second. Maybe. Give it a minute. There it is. So the students would be able to play Tennessee, the horse's favorite song, to get them to go back in the stable. So it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I have no idea off the top of my head how that goes. So I'm going to pretend like I know it. But once you plug that in, it will give you the code. So I'm going to make sure and copy that link, and then I'm going to highlight text like this in a Google Drawing and go to Insert Link. And it's as easy as that, that if you go to Insert Link, you're going to be able to paste the link to whatever that website is, and then you'll hit Apply, and it will go ahead and make a clickable link in the Google Drawings right here. So I did something very similar with a word lock, and I actually used like an old school cipher, and I have to decode it. In the links that I gave you guys, so you're not spending all this time making it, a lot of them are digital, and I know the advertisements are restricted, but you can actually just type in like whatever you want the clue word to be. And then when you use it, it's going to make an image, and you can just screenshot that image. And so boom, you have your code. So whatever you want it to be, there's a whole bunch of links to different ciphers that are digital that you can go ahead and use those for those types of activities. And the last one I made is a direction lock that tells the students like start here and then go all these different directions, and it has northeast, southwest. So very similar things for how we created Google Drawings. I just made 4 separate ones for my locks. So that was kind of a lot to throw at you that was already done, but is there any other questions you might have as far as understanding we use drawings in the same way before I link them to our image? Yes, Sherry.
Have to remember to unmute myself. So on that, did you create the actual map as well on this camp?
This one here?
Yes.
No, this
Okay.
one I just looked up insert map, and then I said like insert kids playground map or something like that, and it pulled this image up. I think it was from like National Geographic, and then I just added these little images on the side.
Oh, okay, that's really cool.
I was like, I basically used all of search, and I put it together pretty quick, so it was nice.
That's just freaking amazing.
Thank you. No. So now here's where the fun part comes in. I'm going to want to link to my image here all of those activities, okay? Now this is where I said creating these inside the same folder is going to make your life easier now, because if I go to my color activity, I'm going to want to go to share. And I don't have to go through every single time and change. Anyone can view, because if you didn't put them in that folder, I'm gonna have to go to change. Anyone can view every single time I do this, right? But since I put it in the folder, it's automatically gonna pick this up, and now all I have to do is go boom, copy link, and I can go back to my image, and I'm gonna go here to the arts and crafts room for my color lock and go to insert, link, and then I'm going to, I don't know what was picking up there. Maybe I already did it. Me being ahead. I'm going to apply. There it is. And so I can see that it worked. It's going to be that image. And then I'm going to go to the next one, which is going to be my number lock. And that's going to be my horsey. Share. So see how much easier it is if I don't have to change this every time, and I can just go to boom, copy link, and then go back to my image. So I'm not having to do that every single time. So I'm going to try and link these as fast as I can. So at least we got like a few of them on here and we can play with this later. While I do that, is there any questions about inserting links or anything like that? Sherry.
So that alleviates, because the problem I've had in the past is I've created links and then I didn't have the sharing right. So when the kids went to share something, having everything in the one folder, that feels like a ding, ding, ding kind of thing. But
no,
yeah.
it's one of those things you don't really think about, and then you're like, oh, this has saved me so much time.
Yeah.
And I ended up starting to teach my students that before I went over to EdTech, where I was like, we're creating one folder that's shared between you and me, and that's going to be our folder. So they knew if they made stuff, I wasn't always trying to get them to figure out how to do the share permissions and everything, because holy cow, it was like a process to be like, no, that thing you didn't share with me. No, that other one. That also gets alleviated a little bit in Google Classroom too, because it tends to do the automatic thing, you know, where it allows you to see their stuff. But it's definitely that little trick that I was like, oh, this is so much helpful, or so much more helpful. So hence, it didn't take me forever. It did take me a little while, but I've now copied all of the links to our stuff. And I'm going to go back to my summer image, toss this onto my fireplace, and now I'm all ready and set to create my locks. So now we're going to switch gears from Google Drawings, and we're going to throw it on over to Google Forms. So I'm actually going to close these and pray I did this right, because I'm closing them hoping nothing's going to happen, which inevitably means things are going to fall apart, but that's fine. I'm going to go to forms.google.com, and I'm going to create just a lock. So I put Summer Fun Final Lock. I've done a couple of them because I didn't think you wanted me to be here trying to put in all of these things together. So the way that this works is we're going to want to start at the beginning here with a brand new question. If you are creating a lock, you only really want to use the short answer option for any of these questions. And that's why I said you want to do like a number lock or a word lock or something like that. And that is because, let me type in my question. So I'm going to say that we're going to do a color lock. And here's something else I've learned. Capitalizing what type of lock it is helps people who take the activity, right? And on the activities themselves, I knew I shouldn't have closed them. On the activities themselves, on the color lock, at the very beginning, I put color lock in capital letters. So they kind of knew what it was. Or if you want to name them tasks or name them the same way. And then you're going to want to put like a 5-letter lock. Or in this case, sometimes it's even better to put the number, right? Like a 5-letter lock. Another thing is down here on my question, there's 3 dots. We're going to use some stuff down here that's important. We're going to make this required. And I usually like to add a description that's a little bit more helpful. So if I want to say like white equals W, green equals G, just to give them a little heads up at like what colors they're going to be. Obviously, I shouldn't put it in the actual order that the lock is, but let's pretend I wasn't doing that. So you're going to put the letters and then what, you know, everything is. And then in the parentheses, I'm going to put like WGY, whatever, okay? So just giving them kind of an example of how to do it. So here is how to make this a lock. One step, one little thing. So we're going to do this a couple times to help you out. I'm going to do these 3 dots, and there's something called response validation. For every single question, we're going to want to turn that on. So I'm going to say that one more time because sometimes it's like, where was that special little thingy that made everything work? In Google Forms, it has to be a short answer question. So I've had so many people try and build escape rooms and they're trying to do a multiple choice question or they're trying to do something, and then they go down here to these 3 dots and they're like, I don't get it. Response validation is not an option. It's not even there. And that's because, waiting for it to go back, it has to be a short answer. So that's how you have to set up pretty much all of these locks, is as a short answer. So I'm going to go here to 3 dots and go to response validation. Sorry, I keep losing my voice. And you're going to see a little line right here pop up. And this line is going to allow you to only have specific answers. So you can have, this is where I said it's great to have a number answer or something with text. You can't really put in anything super fancy, but you can think of different creative ways to do those, right? So in this case, it's a color lock, so it's going to be text. And I want the text to contain something. So I don't want to put doesn't contain, because then it's going to take anything but the answer. If you do want to add an email or a URL, you can make that an option too. But I'm going to say contains because I want it to match exactly. And then you put what it needs to be. So the actual answer is going to be white, green, red, yellow, blue. So this is where you put the answer. If you don't put a custom error text, what I hate about Google Forms, I think maybe in the update they might have fixed it, is if they get it wrong, it doesn't say try again. It defaults to say must contain WGRYB, and it gives you the answer. So it drives me crazy if I forget to put something here. If anything, always default to putting something. But I like to give them a clue that says, like, look at the school supply colors or something, just to be like, wait, what? That's like that hint. You know, when you go to an actual escape room and you're fighting with your husband, that you want to have 3 hints and he doesn't want to have any. Sorry, no, that's just scarred on my part. But if you've ever gone to like an escape room and you've been there and they give you like those 3 hints that you paid a lot of money to try and get, they'll give you some hints, but this is like the digital version of hints, right? So that essentially is creating those locks. So I'm going to go here to the live form and show you kind of what that looks like now. Oops, I left an option 1 on there, sorry. So if I have the color lock and I type anything in here other than that answer, it won't allow me to submit the form. So that's why if you have response validation on every single question, it's not going to allow you to submit the form if you put the wrong one. So I already did the north, south, west, east one. So if I put like north, south, west, east, and I try to go here to submit it, it says, nope, you got to put them all together and it has to be all capitals. So this is the description. Give them a hint on how to put it on there. This is a hint of, nope, you're probably doing this wrong. Okay, so I'm going to go back to edit it and we're going to add in a couple more things. So I'm going to take this guy and delete it. I'm going to delete this guy. And after the color lock, I'm going to put a word lock. And that's going to be, I don't know how many that's going to be. I'm going to assume that was 10 letters. And if I'm wrong, it's going to be okay. 10 letters. And this is where in the description you put how to put it. So I'm going to say 1 word, all lowercase. Make sure you make it required. Make sure you do response validation. So then once I'm on there, I want to do another one that is text. And that text is going to contain. And I'm going to put the word watermelon. Now, before you move on, this is me. Oh, I do this all the time. Read your description and read your answer. Because I don't know how many times I've put a capital watermelon here and then I said, I said to put it all in lowercase. So double check what you're doing. And because I've made that mistake a ton of times. So I'm going to say all lowercase. Okay. So I think I've got them all. I only did 4. Yeah. All right. So don't move ahead past this point yet. There's one other thing you're going to want to do. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom. Or is there any questions about response validation and doing that? Short answer, response validation, you're gold.
good.
Nice. So if students just submit the form, it's kind of lame. You're just kind of like, oh, I did it. All right. So what I like to add on to the next section, so I'm going to go here and add a section, is I like to add sort of like a congratulations, you're a rock star, you're awesome kind of thing. So I just like to put like, congratulations. You did it. You earned bragging rights or something, you know, I don't know. And one thing or a couple things I like to add is I like to add a couple images. So I'm going to add an image here, over here where it says add image. And what I went ahead and did is I took the image that we had and I went to File, and I made a copy. And now I made it to where it looks all like it's cleaned up. So I just took out the images that were all messed up and I put a little fireplace there. So now it looks like, oh, we're ready. You can go back and shove in another Bitmoji to be like you're happy this time instead of stressed out. Maybe. Yes. I'm going to do my yes one. I love that one. Because, you know, I'm in a camp with the words hanging over my head. But that's fine. It's going to be good. It's good. So I'm all happy now. And so I have a copy of the summer escape room. Now, this is important to know about Google Drawings. So, whoops, where am I at? Oop, not going to sets yet. If I go to add into Drive, and I'm actually going to pull anything that's recent, you're more than likely not going to find that particular image. I don't know what the weird thing is with it. And also on Google Sites, you don't necessarily want to treat, I don't know how to explain it. In Google Sites, if you're trying to insert it as an image, it's not going to find it. It's not going to do it. You're going to want to have to pull it from your Drive, or in the case of the one on the Google form, I'm just going to go ahead and download it. But you don't want to do this on the site. So that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know how to make this more clear. You do not want a picture of a JPEG, and you do not want to download it, and you don't want to insert it as an image onto the site. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's not going to make those links active. It'll work for the form, it'll work for other things, but you don't want to use it on the site. So when we build the site, I'll show you that. I just know that sometimes people get confused when we're doing the activity. Another thing that I like to add to a Google form is I really like to add like GIFs or animated GIFs. So it's going to say like, congratulations, you did it. You earned bragging rights. And so it's just going to put a picture here that says like, we cleaned up the cleaned up camp in time. You can get an animated GIF if you would like. In place of doing that whole thing of making an entire brand new like image that you put on there, you can just go ahead and put an animated GIF that says like, great job, you did great, you're wonderful. In this case, I had found a raccoon who was clapping. And so he's gonna be like, yeah, you cleaned up my camp again. But apparently it doesn't want to work. So that's
hilarious.
Like, do you download it, or do you just copy like a link? Like, how do you get the?
I usually, you can do it with insert link. So let me go back to, let me give that a minute to load. Of course, okay. I preload everything. So I'm going to go here to Forms and add an image, and you can even do it by the URL. So I was going to show you that you can grab that URL and paste it here. Okay. But it hates me and doesn't want to do it. And now I'm sad.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I was like, I didn't know which sharing option.
And apparently I have lost my happy raccoon. He was like my favorite part too. He's been laughing at me all day long, but that's fine. You can also right click on it and save it. And then add it into there too. But apparently I broke the internet, so no big deal. So I still have that form, that, don't ask me, oh, because I have the live form, that's right. So now I have that form that has a section that says like, woohoo, we cleaned up in time. And so when they go to that next section, and don't ask me why I didn't say congratulations, that way they know that they actually finished. So I almost always have this continue the next section, and then the next section's like some sort of visual, a GIF, a something. One time I took a picture of the students in class and they were being silly and they were like, oh my gosh, it's us, you know, so just anything that you can think of that's there. All right, so now we have our summer picture, right? We have all the clues that we made. This is why I say it's kind of just time consuming, but man, it's fun. And then we have our form that has all of the locks and stuff on it. And I usually double check the locks before I stick it on. And now finally, you kind of think you'd start with sites, right? It's time to build our site. So is there any questions about where we've gone so far? All right, so I'm gonna go here to a blank site that eventually is going to come. And this, I'm gonna say, is probably the most important part and the thing that I have the most trouble with when I do it wrong. And for some reason, I tend to forget often. Is we're just gonna insert two things and then we're gonna tweak our site to make it a little bit better. But I'm gonna go to insert, and my instinct, and this is where I said it's kind of weird because you're used to going to images, upload or select, even in forms, even in anything else, but for some reason with sites, do not do images. We're going to want, and it may not even pull it up, I'm gonna go to Drive. So don't go to insert images, you're gonna wanna go to insert Drive. And this is how you're going to want to insert the Google Drawing. Come on, go over to recent, please. You're gonna wanna go to the Google Drawing, is you're gonna want to insert it from your Drive and not from images. So I'm gonna say that again. Go to Insert, Google Drive, and insert the image that way, if it ever finds it. Okay, so there's the one I made that's like, yay, I did a good job, but here's the one that's all messed up. And when I insert it, it's gonna act like an image on the page, but this is what makes the links active. So if you ever insert the image and you're like, nothing's working, I don't know why it's working, it's driving me crazy, that's just because you probably try to insert it as an image. You're gonna wanna insert it from your Drive, so all those links and stuff stay active. Okay. Now I'm gonna resize this guy, and this is another reason I kind of like Google Drawings, is because if I pull it out all the way, it just takes a little while to this final line, it can resize this image for me versus kind of like with Google Slides, it kind of just sort of stays that size. But I'm gonna go all the way down to where it fills up the screen, maybe, before I freak it out. Boop. And now I have that image in here. Now, if you do try and check it and you're like, oh, my Lanta, it's not working, I knew I did it wrong, don't forget that this is the build space in Google Sites. You're gonna want to check your preview to see if any of the links or anything works. So let's go to our preview page, and now I should be able to hover over my course, and I'll be able to click on him, and that's gonna open up those locks, okay? So I'm gonna get out of my viewable page, and I have my image here, and then same thing for forms. I'm gonna wanna insert that form. I like to go down here to forms and make sure that I do it this way so I'm getting that embedded version of forms. Is there any questions about inserting just those two things? And then we're gonna talk about tweaking our site to make it look better.
Can you explain that last part? I think you said, okay, I got the picture and how to put that, but now you're embedding the form on there as well? Okay.
Yeah. So for some reason, I think in the recent update, they've done it, they fixed it, but I'm gonna tell you right here. I used to go to insert from Drive. And then I pull my form, and I'll be honest, that's because I was too lazy to do this. Okay, I like scroll down like three inches. I was gonna say it's not even feet, it's like inches. But it didn't want to embed or make it active as well versus me going down here for some reason, because I think it wants to embed these tools a little bit better than choosing forms this way, because then it for sure will embed it, like the whole thing will embed inside the Google site. So if you go on the screen that says insert,
Yes.
on the Google site, scroll all the way down to where it has the option for forms, and click on forms, and then select your lock. And that's how you
Okay. I see now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
So we have our picture and we have our lock. Now the important thing with this lock is you're going to want to drag out your Google form to where it reaches all the way past. So I meant like the size of it, where it reaches all the way past all of your locks. Killing these smalls. All right, so right there, where you're going to get that next button. So you know for sure that next button's going to be on the screen, because you want the students to be able just to look at the screen really quick and be able to hit that and have access to all of the locks while they're on the screen. I do like to center it up, so I'm just gonna click it and move it to where it's gonna center it. Pink. I really hope that didn't just change the bottom. That's lovely. Okay, so once you have this all set up, it really is killing these walls. You can do a few things to sort of jazz up this site. Maybe. Come on. Seriously, I'm going to spend the rest of the time we have left just trying to fit this form on here. Ha! Okay, don't touch it. You'll break it. All right, so now I want to make this sort of look like it's our summer story, okay? So I'm going to call this our summer camp escape room. So I'm going to change the title. If I know how to spell summer. Now here is me telling you another random trick. The reason I stuck these in first is because I've spent so much time making my site look good, and then I'll put these in at the end, and then I'm like, oh, it didn't work, or oh, so I always start with my tools first, and then I go back and do the site, because I've realized that keeps me a little bit more sane. You can do it either way. It's just something I've kind of learned over time that it works out a little bit better for me that way. So I'm going to change the title and what I'm going to call it. And now you can go through and like maybe change the image on the background. And so I'm going to, once again, I can pull from Google search. And I can look up like, yeah, background, something. Yeah, that little guy. And it's just gonna make that kind of as my header, like, yep, we're out in the woods. The one thing you are gonna have to add to your escape room is a story. So I always like to put the story above the image so we know what's going to happen. Now, I will admit that I have already typed this out, so you don't have to watch me type the whole time. You're in charge of a summer camp. All of the new campers are coming this morning. However, when you walk into the campsite, you notice a huge mess. A raccoon's destroyed the entire campsite. Can you put the campsite back together and be ready for the campers in 15 minutes? There you go. And then I kind of put like directions, like click on the images below, try and answer the forms on the bottom. One thing I do like to do as well is I'll go here to this little color palette and either select, I don't really want to select an image, but I'll change the emphasis here to where it can just differentiate the story from the image. Because for some reason, you know, kids don't read, so it kind of gets their attention if you change the background. You can go to the themes here and make it like match a little bit better. So I think maybe I'll pick like a green, so it actually looks like, you know, whoa, no, not that green, that green. That green, there we go. So that way it'll match up the, you know, what's being said. And you can even use that same color here for the behind the Google form right here. So that way the boxes and the locks stand out a little bit more. So that way it's easier to make sure that, you know, the kids are doing the locks and stuff. So essentially that's what I do to my Google site. It's not, the site isn't really a ton. Another little trick I do every once in a while, if I know that it's a specific time, I tried it on the digital ones, is I'll go to YouTube and I'll just get a timer. So I'll get like a 15-minute silent timer, or else it's gonna play music and have all kinds of stuff back there and the kids are gonna hate it. And I'll find something that kind of matches the colors. That one's a little bit green. And so when I embed this YouTube video, it's not going to specifically keep the time, but if they want to put a timer in or run it, or they're doing it in Teams and they want to have it, it's just like a little timer to have. So that's just one other random little trick that you can throw in there for stuff. So pretty easy once you build all the rest of the stuff, but it's just, like I said, kind of the time-consuming part is the planning it out and making sure, I feel like this is too big, making sure that you have all of the information and stuff. So is there any questions about the site piece before I show you how to publish it and then share the link?
No, this has been wonderful. I do know how to publish it and share the link, but wow, so cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you for making me feel good today. So I'm going to go to the publish button in Google Sites, and I'm going to read this. So who can view my site? It usually defaults to anyone at APS. I usually kept it on to anyone at APS because I wanted it for my students. So just to double check those share permissions, I used to put anyone with the link can view it, because if I'm going to publish it only to APS, then I know no one can get into the site anyway. You can change it though, where if you want it to be public or you want to share it to someone else in another school or something, I mean, it's kind, or not another school, another district. Make it public. You can. So it kind of just depends on who you want to have access to that site. I was trying to show you that you can change it, but it froze. You can name it, but remember it is going to have aps.edu in front of it. And I'm going to go ahead and publish that link. And this is not, you don't want to share this link out. That's not the active link. You're going to want to go here to this link, and you're going to want to copy it. And I'm going to go here to paste it in, whatever you're using. So I'm actually going to paste it in. I was trying to give you guys 20 minutes to play on it, or if you had questions about how something works. But now I've pasted that in the chat. So if you guys want to go to that actual link, you can play inside the escape room and see how it actually works. And hopefully I just built it really fast and it actually works. So let me know if it doesn't or something's not working right, because I kind of didn't have time to double check it. But
yeah, Tina, this is so awesome. And I really thank you for doing all the footwork on all of this to help us make our student experience more rich. Thanks.
You're welcome. So now you've got this up here. The other reason I like drawings more than slides a little bit is you can blow it up a little bit. And I'm not blind, but it's easier for me to click on things that are bigger. So you guys can play with that site and everything. If you're on there, just, you don't even need to see what I'm seeing. I'm just letting you guys know that on that escape room doc, so now you have a link to the one that's finished. You do have that escape room locked. I ended up sharing some of today's examples. I have a Google Classroom that I had made for APS that you can kind of look at too. Google Classroom one we had built, digital citizenship one. But all on the bottom, there are a ton of examples. Like I said, I've been collecting examples over time. I ended up finally saying, man, this thing's getting too big. So that's why I went down on the bottom and said extra resources. I have a Wakelet now that I'm just collecting them all. So all of those links are on that doc. If you just want to go and look at how other people have done it, that's kind of how I learn, is I look how someone's done it, and then that's what I end up referring back to. So Kristen, yes, give me 1 second. I'll give you the version that you can make a copy of. Thank you, Katrina. She was faster than me. So I'm available now for questions for like 13 minutes, or you can play on the site and yeah, whatever you want. But that is basically Google. I was going to say Google Sites. See, they say it's Google Sites escape rooms, but it's really all of the pieces together. I probably spend more time in drawings than anything else, or forms. So it's more so Google escape rooms, but I guess because we house it on a site, we kind of call it sites. But so I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, and I will just be hanging here with you guys for a little bit more.